The Amazon basin sits on some of the most nutrient-poor earth on the planet. Torrential rainfall constantly hits the forest floor, stripping minerals out of the ground significantly faster than most plant root systems can absorb them. For centuries, the dominant agricultural response to this environment has been slash-and-burn farming. A patch of jungle, cleared and burned for a quick flush of nutrients, but the land exhausted itself in 2 or 3 seasons. What remains is laterite, an orange brick, hard tropical soil that refuses to support complex crops. But deep within the basin, there are exceptions. Agronomists have documented massive patches of dark earth that have remained continuously productive for up to 2,500 years. Farmers work these specific plots today, relying on ancient soil that consistently outperforms modern chemically fertilized fields. This map illustrates the accounts of early European explorers in the 1540s. Men like Francisco de Orellana documented thousands of inhabitants living in dense, sophisticated agricultural cities along the riverbanks. For centuries, historians dismissed these reports as pure fiction, operating on the assumption that the poor Amazonian soil could never support such large populations. The survival of these hyper-fertile, self-sustaining patches of dark earth contradicts the established limitations of tropical soil science. In the 1960s, a Dutch soil scientist named Wim Sambroek began systematically cataloging these strange patches of earth. He found that the black deposits contained high concentrations of ceramic fragments, fish bones, and intentionally charred organic material. This dark earth was not a natural occurrence, it was a manufactured medium. Over centuries, the pre-Columbian communities incrementally built these plots by incorporating kitchen waste, manure, and the output of low-temperature smoldering fires directly into the ground. The core agricultural technology driving the system is a charred biomass, known today as biochar. The indigenous populations of the Amazon bypassed the limits of their native environment by engineering a permanent replacement for the soil. Standard organic inputs like compost and manure are designed to decompose. Microorganisms break them down, release a temporary flush of nutrients, and cycle the carbon back into the atmosphere as carbon dioxide within a few seasons. Biochar behaves differently due to a process called pyrolysis. When you heat carbon-based biomass in an oxygen-limited environment, it does not combust. Instead, the material converts into a stable, highly porous carbon skeleton. Because of this specific chemical transformation, the structure refuses to degrade. And radiocarbon dating confirms that the carbon laid down in the Amazon thousands of years ago remains active in the soil today. This diagram illustrates the architecture of that skeleton. Under a microscope, biochar functions like an intricate labyrinth. A single gram of high-quality biochar contains roughly 300 to 400 square meters of internal surface area. That massive internal surface carries a negative electrical charge. It attracts positively charged cations, specifically calcium, magnesium, and potassium. In heavily leached soils, rain flushes these exact nutrients away from plant roots. Inside biochar, they are trapped in the sponge. The labyrinth also acts as a secure habitat. Soil bacteria and mycorrhizal fungi move into the empty pores, safe from environmental stress, where they cycle the trapped nutrients directly to the crops. Biochar is not a fertilizer. It is an architectural framework that anchors soil chemistry and houses soil biology. Industrial biochar production currently costs between $300 and $600 per ton. At the 10 to 20 tons required to properly amend a single hectare, the capital investment immediately rules out large-scale commercial grain producers operating on tight margins. The material's effectiveness is also highly dependent on the starting health of the land. In the degraded, acidic soils of the tropics, yield responses are consistently massive. But when applied to the deep, already fertile loams of the American Midwest, the measurable improvements often drop to zero. Raw biochar can even suppress plant growth initially because the newly created carbon structure is highly porous and entirely empty. Local soil microbes rush in to inhabit it, consuming available nitrogen in the process and temporarily starving the surrounding crops. To bypass this nitrogen lockup, the biochar must be loaded before it enters the ground. Agronomists co-apply it with a rich nitrogen source, usually mature compost or manure, filling the sponge with nutrients so it functions from day one. When you isolate biochar and treat it as a chemical cure-all, it falters. It only works when deployed as a structural multiplier for active biology in soils that actively need repair. The most effective modern applications of biochar bypass industrial costs entirely by utilizing local agricultural waste streams. In Japan, agronomists have processed discarded rice husks into biochar since the 1980s. Kyushu University maintains the world's longest continuous trial data set on these paddies, proving that the local yield advantages from that local waste actually compound as the microbial community matures over decades. In Western Kenya, researchers partnered with smallholder farmers to pyrolyze everyday farm waste applied to heavily exhausted red soils. The biochar produced a 78% increase in maize yields in just 2 seasons, using 0 additional synthetic inputs. In South Australia, commercial vineyards are converting sustainable forestry waste into biochar. They incorporate it into moderately fertile soil strictly for its physical architecture, using the pore structure to trap water and reduce irrigation demand in a drought-prone climate. By matching specific local waste streams to specific soil deficits, the economics of this ancient practice are viable for global agricultural restoration. For small-scale applications, the process relies on clean feedstocks, hardwoods, nutshells, or agricultural waste processed in a simple top-lit updraft gasifier to limit emissions. The peer-reviewed baseline for a meaningful yield response begins at an application of 10 tons per hectare, mixed by volume at 3 parts biochar to 1 part mature compost. Once the mixture is incorporated, the physical task is over. Because the carbon structure does not degrade, you do not need to reapply it the next season or the season after that. Modern agriculture often treats farmland as a sterile holding medium, a place to dump water and synthetic inputs until they wash away in the rain. But soil is a living biological system, and living systems require housing. The pre-Columbian farmers of the Amazon understood that. They were building infrastructure. By putting stable carbon into the ground, we can construct a framework for fertility that stays in the earth, doing the exact same work thousands of years after we are gone.